Blog Talk Radio.
Hi folks, welcome. I'm Dan McDermott. This is the McDermott Report. We broadcast live weeknights at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. You're welcome to join the discussion. Our number is 818-688-6625, and you can be part of our show. Already on the show, we have tonight Christina Trapolino, who is a bit of a Google Plus celebrity, if there is such a thing. Christina, welcome. Thanks for being on the show tonight.
Thank you, Dan.
This is her picture. She likes two things, Google Plus and dogs, probably not in that order. Also with us is regular guest and almost, I guess, co-host, Emily Williams. Emily is the senior political writer for the Lynchburg Times newspaper. Emily, thanks for joining us as well.
Great to be here, Dan.
And Brett Herbeck joins us from Atlanta, Georgia. Is that where you are, Brett?
I'm down in hot Atlanta right now. Yes, sir.
I think I hear a bird in the background from someone. I'm not sure.
If I'm walking on the street right now. I'm trying to get back to a place where it's quieter.
No problem. More quieter. Brett Herbeck is the former vice mayor of Front Royal, Virginia, and just sort of a political guy that we get on this show. But anyway, I want to thank all of you. Coming up on the show tonight, we are going to talk about Google Plus, and it's big. We're going to get into that whole thing. What does it mean? Let me make an adjustment here. Sorry. We're going to talk about some newsy stuff. Also, Amazon is taking their sales tax case to California, pitting them against Walmart in a battle of PR firms. The New York Times has gained 150,000 digital subscribers, bringing them up to about 250,000 since they launched their paywall. Does this mean that paywalls are a thing of the future? Google is going to offer a credit card for advertisers, and Google bought Fridge. Not the home appliance, but a startup. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. So first off, let me, Christina Trapolino, you are known as a dispenser of advice, if you will, and thoughts, whims, observations about Google+. You are, I guess, like me, you were a Facebook person, and then perhaps before that, you're about the right age, you were probably a MySpace person. How'd you get on Google Plus? Tell me your story.
Well, I actually got invited. I had to do a bit of working around the invite system. I had a friend who was in already, and we used the Lifehacker article. He mentioned me in a post, and I kind of just got in. It was a pretty lucky break for me.
And you found it to be. You've just fallen in love with it. How much time a day do you spend on Google Plus? Be honest.
Oh man, honestly, it'd be easier for me to tell you how many hours I'm not on it. I have woken up with my phone in my hand with Google Stream on it, so it's been pretty intense. I've been pretty plugged in.
Now, you said that your whole thing. I apologize. I'm setting up a shot while I'm talking to you, so I'm looking away. But your whole involvement, you kind of blew up. I think as of today, you're moving up. You're the 177th most followed, I guess, is that the right term, person on Google Plus, and it's largely due to your writing. So tell me, what do you write about? What kind of, because it's obviously hit a nerve or not a nerve really, but it's just sort of a lot of folks agree with it and have been sharing your posts. So what sort of interesting observations do you have that have proven so popular in the last couple weeks?
Well, I think I'm excited about an unknown territory that we're moving into, I feel. A lot of people think that Google Plus is, just another social network, but I mean, the real magic of social media and social networking is that you are, if you have something of value to contribute, that spreads really easily and really quickly. I had no idea that anyone was paying attention to anything I said until Mike Elgin, I found him through Tom Anderson on Google+. He is a great tech writer, and he reshared a post that I made, a tip that I actually posted for a real friend. And then suddenly it was like hundreds of people are following me, and I felt like, okay, well, what do I have to say? That I think that this is what we should do with this platform, and I'm just sort of spreading my vision, I guess. And, then it was like 2 or 3 posts later, Craig, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, from the Huffington Post, linked to an article I wrote, and then Ryan Crow, a gentleman who ran a G Plus Tips account, he reposted something, and it was just like, these are 3 really, Ryan is respected in the G Plus community. Craig is a respected senior editor at the Huffington Post. Mike Elgin's established. It's like, when those people tell other people to listen to you, it's amazing, they do. And if you have something to say, apparently they keep listening. So that's the magic of it. Anybody can do it. If you have something to say, if you have art to make, if you have, something to contribute, everybody can see it. It's like magic.
I'll do a quick disclosure that I also occasionally blog on Huffington Post. And I'll tell you, when you have, there's a lot of crappy content out there. Anybody can publish anything. And if you do have something good, it can really spread. Sometimes, I publish 3 newspapers. Sometimes we do our local stuff. All 3 are local newspapers. Every once in a while, we stumble across a national story, and it's amazing. I put a thing up about Netflix going down, and they hadn't said anything, and everyone was angry at them all over again. This is just a couple nights ago. Google News picked it up. Immediately, I had 2,000 views within a few minutes. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. It was I just basically said Netflix is down, and I had called the vice president of Netflix, and he texted me back and said not to text him, but to email him, and then he never responded to that. So it's kind of funny, but stuff can go viral quickly. So let's talk right now. I think Larry Page said that about 10 million users were using Google+. This was not less than a week ago. So I'm guessing now it's about, say, 15 million. That's about 2% of Facebook's 750 million user base. So tell me, first of all, for folks who are not yet using Google+, like Brett Herbeck, who I'm going to bring in here. Brett is, I guess you use Facebook and some other things, but Brett, Christina's going to talk straight to you now. Why should Brett Herbeck, former vice mayor of Front Royal, who's kind of not a geek or anything, but he's a technologist, layman, why should he get on Google+? What's different about it?
Well, it's perfect for a politician. I mean, you want to talk about being able to be authentic. The Circles technology, people say it's not new, however the technology comes about, we now have a platform where you can post in a public sphere, you can post to everybody, and you can post the things that you need to say to everybody that everybody should see. You can, Mike Elgin put it really beautifully. He said you can use Google Plus to write a letter to your mother. You can use it to talk to your real-life friends. You can use it to speak specifically to the members of your family that you don't like or the ones that you do like. It's really giving everyone a lot more control in a really intuitive way. It's a new way to share your life with everyone. That's a relatively new thing. MySpace never really was about that. Facebook and Twitter kind of started us talking about our, brushing our teeth and what our cats are doing. And I'm hoping Google Plus will be, especially for a politician or someone who has a public persona, you now have a place where you can talk to everybody and you don't have to worry about who's listening.
Brett Herbeck, are you convinced?
I'm trying to get on my iPad right now to sign up, so I'm right here.
I don't know that it works on the iPad yet.
See, there we go.
I think it does. I think it does.
No, I am
does
convinced, and I do want it done. I don't know. I'm working on it right now.
Christine, it's kind of
Apple user, so
one of the
I'm
things
I feel lucky here in a second.
One of the things I noticed, Christina, was that it has a feature similar to Twitter where anybody can follow anybody. You don't have to approve them. It's not like Facebook, which was real closed. It's a lot.
Correct.
It's open, but then you can also put people in circles. Explain what that's about.
Well, Facebook has, and I realized they recently did something where they added groups, but I'll be honest, I deleted my Facebook before they did it, so I have no idea what they've added. What I know is that the Facebook that I used before Google Plus had a very, it's a two-way friendship. You're friends with me and I'm friends with you, and that's the end of it. Google Plus allows anybody to follow anybody, and when you're following someone who is not following you back, you get to see everything they post publicly. That's it. If I'm posting to my circle of friends or to a circle in a city, no one sees that unless they're in that circle. So it's very compartmentalized, but it's very easy to use. I mean, anytime I turn on my mobile phone and I want to check into a cool restaurant in Houston, which is where I live, I have a Houston public circle for anybody I don't know that lives in Houston, and I can say, oh, I'm at this restaurant and it's really great, and it's just it's an easy way to communicate, I would say, that Facebook doesn't really have. Facebook has a status update that all of your friends see, or you can decide who sees it to a certain degree, but I don't want to be Facebook friends with, for example, the mayor. I don't need to be Facebook friends with him. What does that mean? I'm not
well,
his friend.
That's Brett. Brett's the former vice mayor, but that's close enough. Emily, what have you found different that you like about Google Plus? Because you were not that engaged on Facebook. It wasn't as bad as Glenn Connolly, who's a buddy of mine, where if you look at his page, I think he's listening. You go down his post, and it's like the last 3 birthdays. He gets on to thank people for saying happy birthday, and that's about it. But what you were not, you did not eat, breathe, sleep Facebook, but I see you're more engaged. In fact, when I mentioned Christina was going to be on the show tonight, you said, "Oh, cool! I follow her, or she's in my circles." We need a verb because it's not really following, but we need some word for it. She's in my circles. Maybe Christine could invent one. But what do you find different that you like so much about this?
Well, and I'm definitely of the persuasion that Google Plus does all the things that I wanted Facebook to do without any of the things I don't want Facebook to do. And I guess my history with Facebook is that I joined back when colleges and universities still had to pay a fee to be a member. So when I first joined Facebook, it was a place to goof off, where the only people that could see what was on my page were people that had the same, end part of their email address, at the university.edu. So from there, Facebook really evolved into something that was just much bigger and much more public, and all of a sudden, it's illegal for companies to hire or fire you based on what's on your Facebook page. That would be all right if Facebook wasn't so. It's hard on Facebook to know what's private and what's not. And they do a great job of adding things and automatically setting your preferences to completely public when they do that. So I really just lost faith in Facebook. I think right around the time tons of people were sending me things like, come work on my farm, or, all those other dumb games. I was just like, all right, this is enough. So when Google Plus came along, it was really just like a blank slate. And right now it has a very intelligent, very, with it kind of vibe. And I think that's probably has to do with the people that are on Plus right now, which, judging by from what I've seen, is, the majority of the people are either techies or media people, which is great. It's a great community, and I love the ability to share with everyone, or to, for example, just send a message to my mom, which I did today. And I was a little nervous at first because it comes right up on your wall, and I was like, oh no, everyone can see this, but it's not like that.
I think that's the. Let me ask Christina, Emily. That's a big advantage of Facebook. Still, everybody's on it. Your long lost chum from middle school is on it. Your grandma's on it, and Google Plus is nothing near that. Do you think it's going to be one of the things I've always wondered? It started out as all of us geeks were on it because that's who got the initial invites, and then we would invite other geeks, and then basically all people would talk about is how awesome Google Plus was and make fun of Facebook, and that's true. But are soccer moms going to adopt this? Grandmas, the kids? I mean, is it going to be is this as inviting, or do you need all that crap that Facebook has, like the games and I'm not going to go feed your plants?
How about instead of games, you have a whole suite of sharing and collaboration tools under the Google roof? I mean, Facebook has, I don't even want to start talking about the problems I've had with knowing which photos were private on Facebook. Google has Picasa. They've integrated Picasa into Google+. You can make a photo album and send it to your family. You can make a photo album, put it on a Google site, share it with just your family. I mean, I assume and hope that integration with other Google products is what's in store for Google+. So I imagine that at some point in the future, you will be able to open up your share box and say, okay, I want to have a birthday party for my 5-year-old, and I want to invite all of the parents. Everybody's in your Google contacts already. Everybody, it's just, instead of wasting time on watering virtual plants, which you can still do on the internet anywhere, now it's going to be, I hope, more about sharing everything. You can collaborate with Google Documents. You can get your whole family to help you make your birthday card invitations for the party you're going to post the pictures on your Google Plus later for. I mean, it's a way to integrate everything together. That's what I'm so excited about, is that works for people who are just sharing with their families, and it works with people who have bigger public lives. So that's, to me, the reason that people will come is eventually, it's still in beta, it's still in field testing. Only Google can have 10 million people in a field test, but that's what it is, we're just seeing how it works for now, and I see a lot of potential, which is what I post about. I post about the potential that I see and encouraging people to take advantage of that. Don't waste your time on a game. Waste your time on something more productive, hopefully.
Well, okay, let me ask Brett Herbeck. Brett, you... in your campaigns in the past for political office, you've used Facebook. Tell me, as far as, and I guess I'm sure you communicate with your wife, and I guess your kids are too young. But what do you like? What do you dislike about Facebook?
Well, I like as has been mentioned, the number of people that are on it, and the number of connections that you can create, and the number of people that you can reconnect with, whether it's old acquaintances from high school or younger, or college friends that you've lost touch with. So from that perspective, I think it's a great tool. You can watch family members or long-distance cousins or friends, their kids grow up on pictures that they post and whatnot. I kind of gave up on that whole privacy thing. I have no clue what's private and what's not, so I just be careful of how much I put up picture-wise and what I share, frankly, on Facebook, because I have no clue how many people are seeing what my kids look like and where we are. I don't tend to use that feature, that where I am, the location feature, unless I really don't care if anybody knows I'm not at home. So I just kind of watch my own privacy on that. But and when I kind of use it to spout things off or just be funny or attempt to be funny. So and just to share idiotic thoughts back and forth with friends. I don't participate in the games. That's not something that's interesting to me. So actually, the argument today has made me think about, as soon as I have the opportunity to get on Google Plus, I think it's an opportunity that I'd like to explore, because I think it sounds like with Facebook is going to have its own niche of people, just like LinkedIn. LinkedIn, I have my LinkedIn account there, but that's for specifically a business networking type of building where I can pass referrals and receive referrals from. And I think Google Plus probably has a different kind of purpose and niche, and it's gonna attract certain kind of people. And some of us are going to have all of those accounts together, and we're going to use them for different purposes. So, but I think that Facebook is much more social. Share pictures. This is what I'm doing. I don't post things on people's walls, private things, because I can read everybody else's private thoughts on their walls, and I don't want those thoughts out there. So, mainly for an audience, it's a nice megaphone for me to announce to 1,000 people, hey, this is what I'm doing, or this is what I think, and if you don't care, then defriend me, and if you do, great. So,
that's fair. All right, Emily, let me ask you this. There's a story. I'm going to get back to more Google Plus stuff in a sec, but one of the things about Google is that just about everything they do is free and advertiser supported. I think 97% of their revenue comes from advertising, mainly AdWords, and it's hugely successful for them. But other companies that like the New York Times went to a paywall where you could get X number, and there's ways around it, but basically they're saying that you should have to you have to subscribe to in order to read a lot of the content, or at least X number of articles you get free, and then you have to pay. And they have gone up from, I think, 100,000 to 250. So they've gone up by 150,000 digital subscribers since April, when I think they announced it in March, or they made the switch. What do you is this? This is obviously a victory for the New York Times paywall, but do you see? In the past, it was all like the Wall Street Journal, Financial Times. It was sort of niche sites with a rich audience that could get away with this. But New York Times is pretty mainstream, pretty broad. It's one of the top 3 newspapers in the country. What do you think? Is this the future?
Yeah, hopefully. I was stoked when I heard about how well they did. And especially, I mean, Gannett just came out with their numbers, I believe it was yesterday or today, but this week, and their numbers were down considerably. And for anyone that doesn't know, Gannett Company owns USA Today and a few other. They're actually the largest newspaper publisher in the nation. But anyway, so to hear that the Times had done so well with their pay service, I mean, this is really what all of the newspapers were waiting for. If any large, daily newspaper was to pull this off correctly, especially in the general interest market, it would be the New York Times. And since it worked for them, I think that other papers will follow. And really what this says, what the numbers say, is that there were enough people that once they got cut off at their 20 free articles a month said, hey, I value the New York Times reporting enough to pay more to get more articles, which is just, I don't know, as a print journalist, it just makes me warm and fuzzy inside, I guess.
Brett, what do you think? Do you subscribe to, do you pay for anything? Are you a New York, of course you're conservative, so you probably have a copy of the New York Times on your dartboard, but do you pay for any sites?
No, I don't. Not right now, but that's only because it's free. I can get the news that I need for free on certain places, and I rely on probably too much on bloggers and things who are reciting or copying some of the pertinent information. But I will when I can't get it for free. So, and I think that's probably the smart move for these papers, because I mean, how else are they gonna? They're losing their print. I haven't picked up a real newspaper today, actually, on the airplane to do the crossword puzzle, but the only reason I picked up the newspaper in ages, and it's depressing when you pick it up to see how few pages there are. So it's the only way they're going to survive is to charge, I think, because they're not going to get the ad revenue. I don't believe they're going to get the ad revenue to support themselves just from ads on their paper. So I eventually will. I do have the I do have the subscription to the News Corporation's magazine on the iPad. So I do pay for a subscription on that particular one, which I do look at. But otherwise, I don't pick up the Washington, New York Times, and the Post, and our local Northern Virginia Daily for our local news is all free right now.
And of course, Warren County Report is your favorite newspaper.
That's right. Excuse me, I forgot about that one. I apologize. That's right.
All right, Christina, do you pay for anything? Because hopefully Christina will be the first person, one of the first 3 people that Brett adds when he gets on Google+. Christina, you write for free. What do you think? Do you pay for anything, or do you find that there's enough free stuff that you don't have to?
I don't pay for news. No, I find there are too many free sources for me right now. I do have a personal policy, though. I will not browse news sites with an ad blocker on, and I do that because, it's like a personal moral. I just feel like those writers have a hard job, and I want the news to stay free, and if the way to do that is to let them advertise to me, then that's fine with me.
Are you talking about an ad blocker or a pop-up blocker? Something that strips everything, or something that just prevents the full page,
Both. I mean, there's a great extension in Google Chrome that's it's called AdBlock, and it just, you know, I don't know how it works exactly. I'm not a programmer, but it'll just makes them all disappear. All the ads go away. It's really easy to do, and a lot of people use it, which is why, you know, I tend to actually open up another browser window that doesn't have an ad blocker when I'm on the news. It's a little. I also don't download music for free. I just have a couple of things I don't think should be taken.
Okay, Christina, let me ask you, when Twitter was first started, they really didn't know what they had created. In fact, I mean, they knew that they had, you know, it was 140 characters, etc., but they really didn't know. They weren't anticipating fomenting revolution in the Middle East, for example, right? And Google Plus is still. I'm not really clear on exactly what's in my stream versus what's incoming. It's kind of confusing. I still haven't figured it out, and I think I read it once, but I forgot it. But what do you think? This is just the beginning. It's still in beta. They call it closed beta, but you can pretty much invite anybody, and within an hour or a day they'll get on. But what's this potential for this thing called Google Plus?
Well, no, Twitter didn't know that they were going to be, you know, helping to revolutionize countries, but now we know that's possible. That's something that I think Google really has a leg up on all of the social media sites that came before it. You know, we're still learning what social media is. We're still learning why people, you know, we don't know why people share some of the things that they do. That's all stuff that, you know, I'm sure sociologists and all kinds of people in academia and the media are looking at. But Google Plus right now is open to be whatever we want it to be. And Google, I think, at least so far, especially even with the Fridge buy that you mentioned earlier, you're going to talk about later, you know, they seem to really be engaged. They are, they're building these tools. They are listening to the 10 million people that are using the tool. They are adjusting it to become what people are asking for it to become, and I think that's a smart way to approach it. And so I think that's why I tend to sort of evangelize on the idea that we should be, as a community, the people who are in Google Plus right now, you know, keep pushing for that content, keep creating stuff and sharing, you know, original ideas and music and art and writing, you know, put all of that out there, because then that's what Google is going to be building us. I mean, they're going to build us the tools to do what we ask them to do. So it's limitless potential right now. I mean, it could be anything. Yes, it could be another Facebook, it could be another Twitter and nothing more, but I don't feel like that's what's going to happen. We've all already had a Twitter account. We've all already had a Facebook account. We know what we like in those services, and Google is giving us an opportunity to, you know, do something, maybe take a step forward past that. We're still evolving.
What's the deal in the stream? I notice, I don't know if it's because I've chosen to follow a higher caliber of people or what, but it seems, I'm not sure how it works, if it's just in chronological order, but it seems that when someone posts an animated GIF file, and some of them are hysterical, or when someone does have a cute kitten picture, those are few and far between, but it seems like the quality of the stuff is higher than I've seen in other sites or other social networks. Is that because it's is that just the population, or are we on better behavior here, or it's a smarter group, or is it the more likes or the more shares it filters above?
Sure. I mean, I think right now, again, you know, whether it's a huge field test or not, it is a field test. So right now we're looking at a smaller amount of people who, as Emily said, are geeks and nerds and media people and people who are good at social media in the first place, or they wouldn't be there. That said, I think that you have to remember, and I think Google needs to make this clearer for everyone, but circles are also streams. So when you add someone to your circles, and you know that what they do is like always post pictures of cats. Like that's all they do is post pictures of cats, and sometimes you might want to look at the pictures of cats. So you can put them in a cat picture circle, and you can click on that and read, and you can add everybody you know who posts cat pictures or cat stories or whatever. You can then click on that circle, and it's a stream. It's only going to show you the people in that circle. So if you build your circles the right way, or the way that's best for you, you have a lot of control over what you see as well as what you share. So I think over time, my prediction would be, hopefully, that's going to change how people share in the first place. Because, look, if I'm just posting a bunch of nonsense, nobody's going to care what I'm saying. Why would I keep posting it? You know, I mean, that's how I look at it. If someone's following you, it means that you're doing something they like. So that's a good cue to keep doing what they like.
Okay, let me ask Brett Herbeck. When you go on, what are you looking, from what you've heard, what have you heard thus far about Google Plus? I know you've heard about it, you haven't tried it yet. I'm just curious what the perception is from someone who hasn't seen it yet.
Well, you're not the first person now that's talking about it, Dan. You were the first person that kind of tuned me into it. But I have gotten a request or an invitation to participate from another friend of mine who does tend to help on a lot of these things, and I trust on the technology front. So that intrigued me as well, because it was really the first time outside of these conversations that we've had that anybody else has talked about it. But and that's just another normal guy who's into kind of Crutchfield type of stuff and in technology, and he let me know about it. But just these conversations you're having now about some of the ways that we can mold this and shape it and use it for a blank slate seems really exciting and an opportunity to me. I just find Google and Apple are two of the most fantastic companies out there, and if either one of them come out with a new product, I'm really intrigued to think that they have as a stamp of approval right there that it's going to be a quality product just by their brand. So
okay, that's one of my topics. That's one of my topics I want to ask you. What is the cause of that? There is this natural affinity that we have. When Google announces they're going to do something, you know it's going to be cool, it's going to be streamlined, it's going to be simple, easy to use, and we like it even before. You probably like Google Plus, even though you haven't seen it yet, just because it's got Google attached to it. What is the cause of that? Why do we have a natural affinity? Whereas a Facebook, if they say a new announcement from Facebook, you sort of cringe and you're like, oh God, what is Zuckerberg doing now? What's he going to screw up this time? What is it about Google? Is it just something earned, or what? I don't know.
I think it's earned. They've proved themselves already. They've done stuff that's well. I mean, I think it's the same kind of brand that the Walt Disney Company has. Disney puts their name on something, and you know it's going to be the highest of class. And Ritz-Carlton and Google and Apple, I think both have just demonstrated in the past that they've come up with innovative ideas. They've revolutionized. I mean, Apple's revolutionized the way we listen to music, the way we communicate with people, the way we telephone. And Google has done the same thing with search engine and with their document sharing and everything in their Gmail. So I mean, I think that they've just proven themselves. They've come out and they've done exactly what you would expect a startup entrepreneur to do, and create something that the marketplace didn't know it wanted and now wants, and they made it the best. And anytime they come out with anything, because they've consistently done it, you expect it to be the best, and they live up to that hype. So I think it's an earned reputation that's well deserved.
Emily, let me ask you: even when they screw up, like when they were going through everyone's town and copying data from your Wi-Fi network, we sort of forgive them, right? I mean, except in Europe where they're freaks about that stuff.
Yeah, I think the Europe stuff is a completely different issue, but I think that what Google has done is put forward consistently simple and very useful products. I mean, really just stemming from their search engine, which has been the best search engine forever now, really, and so much that it's made it into the vernacular. You don't search for something on the internet, you Google it. But and just the consistency of their products is really what has done it for them.
Let me ask Christina. Obviously, you're a Google Plus fan, but have you always felt that way about Google products? Do you understand? Do you have what are your thoughts on this? Do you share that whenever you announce if Google was going to do anything, I would say, oh, that's going to be so cool, even if I really don't know anything about it, just because I like the company so much.
I mean, yeah, I'm a huge Google fan. That said, they've goofed a few times. They've stumbled around, especially with the social media stuff. The thing is, I really get excited when I hear that Google is going to try their hand at something I'm already interested in. So I was already looking for a reason not to have a Facebook anymore. I've been sick of Facebook for a long time and not really knowing why I used it. So when Google said, hey, we're going to do social networking, I was thrilled. When I heard Google was going to do streaming music, I was thrilled. I'm in the Google Music beta, and that's exciting for me. So, yeah, I mean, Google also does a lot of stuff I kind of don't care about, but I'm excited about the things that they do that I'm already interested in, and I do usually trust Google to do it. They're going to do it right. And if they don't do it right the first time, they're going to keep trying. Clearly, with this social media stuff, they're not done.
I agree. What do you think? Tell me, Christina, about Fridge, not what's in your fridge in your home, but this company Fridge. I guess it's a startup company. The whole thing, to put it in layman's terms, I guess, Twitter is completely public, and anybody can follow anybody. Facebook, you have to be approved, and a lot of people have locked down their pages, so it basically says, mine would say damn it or whatever, but mine's public, I don't care, but a lot of people, you can't really see their wall unless they accept you into their friends. There is a grouping listing feature in Facebook, but it's cumbersome compared to what Google did. Google, with Plus, they started out with these circles, and you can put up to 5,000 people in circles, and they may change that, but I don't know if they will or not, but they're running into some problems with celebrities who are complaining about it, like William Shatner, who was banned for a day or something until everyone at Google probably freaked out and said, oh my God, we've just banned Star Trek Captain Kirk. We have to get him back on. What is Fridge, and tell me why this is an odd purchase given what Google Plus is now known for.
I don't think it's odd at all. I do not. I mean, I'm going to full disclosure. I had never heard of Fridge before early this morning, and I still don't completely know what they do. I know that they are involved in social networking with groups, which my suspicion is that this may be Google responding to the user base has been clamoring for a while now about the signal-to-noise ratio. And, for example, I make a lot of posts every day, and anybody that follows me sees every public post that I make. So that can get noisy, especially if you're someone that, you are either a politician or you have a reason to be making a lot of noise. And a lot of people have come up with a lot of different theoretical ideas about how to make broadcasting give us more control over what we're sharing publicly. So my guess is Google may be looking into that issue, and that may be something to do with the Fridge purchase. I don't think it's odd. Google buys stuff all the time. They buy things that may not make sense until, if you didn't know that the users within Google Plus are having this huge debate about signal-to-noise ratio, it probably would seem odd. I don't think it's odd. I think they're starting to address that issue because it's real. It's an issue. I have real-life friends who, they're sending me texts like, would you please shut up? Like, would you please shut up on Google Plus? So they may be trying to address that. I'm not sure, but that would be my guess.
Okay, let me ask you, anyone who wants to chime in. Christina, what's the minimum age? Is there a minimum age for Google Plus? Do we know?
I have heard that it's 18. That's not something I've read. I've never read anything official from Google about an age limit. I have heard rumors that it's 18 plus, and we may have that to thank for the slightly higher level of maturity, but I don't know. I'm not sure.
Brett, you've got Go ahead.
I read a post that said that parents were having problems with their children's accounts getting shut down. Like anyone who had started a Google Mail account who was under 18 and then signed up for Google Plus, Google is just shutting down their mail account.
That's what I heard. That's what I've heard.
Yeah. Supposedly you're not supposed to have a Gmail account unless you're over 18 too. But I'm not sure. It was such a long time ago when I signed up that I don't remember giving a birth date. But
Brett, what do you think? You've got 3 kids. In Australia, they're considering making Facebook 18 and over, and you'd have to prove it somehow online or do something in order to get on Facebook. What do you think? I think now, is it 13, I think, or something? What do you think the minimum age should be?
I think the minimum age probably should be what the parents say the minimum age should be for their own child. I certainly don't think there should be a law that dictates what age people should be able to go on a social networking site. I think there's plenty of laws already out there to protect our kids from predators. So what should the company itself do? It probably, I would imagine, a 13, 15 years old is probably sufficient. I probably won't let my kids get on it until at least they become teenagers, or I would encourage them not to. But I certainly don't think there should be a law, and as a company, probably in there somewhere in the teens.
What do you think, Emily?
Be responsible.
Well, I think that Australia can do whatever it wants as far as laws are concerned, but the simple fact of the matter is any kid that has any basic math skills can make themselves over 18 on the internet. I mean, it really doesn't take much, and not that when I was under 18, would ever do anything like that.
No.
It's just really simple to fudge your birth year. I mean, it's really easy, and there's just no way for the internet to verify that. And so, the punchline of that is that it comes down on parents to know what their kids are doing on the internet. I mean, the internet is a big place, and just like you wouldn't let your kid run willy-nilly through the streets of New York, I mean, you shouldn't let your kids run willy-nilly through the internet. So the hope there is that other places that kids use the internet, like schools and libraries, are also, looking after what's happening too. But, it definitely falls on the parents, period.
Okay, Christina, tell me about, I guess it's the Google Plus diet. This guy, and he shared something. Tell me this story we were talking about earlier.
Oh, that's Mike Elgin. Yeah, when I first signed up for Google Plus, it was maybe, one of the first people I started following was Tom Anderson. Almost everybody has, his numbers prove
he's the founder of, just so folks don't know, that's the guy who's MySpace.
Right. He is MySpace. He was everybody's very first MySpace friend, and there's that famous picture of him kind of looking over his shoulder in front of the whiteboard. But he recommended in one of his posts on Google Plus, hey, there's this guy Mike Elgin. He's really great, and he's a great writer, and everybody should follow him. So I, went through the guy's posts, and I noticed the first thing that I noticed that caught my eye is he said he was giving up all other social media because of something he was calling social media fatigue, social networking fatigue, where you just get sick of, I got to check my Twitter, I got to check my Facebook, I have to check, Foursquare, all these different platforms. So he said, well, I want to see whether Google Plus will be, can I just use Google Plus for everything? For, can it fit all of these needs? And I thought that was a really great idea. I thought it would be cool to join him on the diet as a regular person. He was already a blogger with a following, so he had, people email him all day, and he has all this high traffic and interaction and engagement that I didn't have. So I thought, well, why don't I see if it works for a regular person? Because that's the real test, at least in my mind, is whether regular people will be able to use this. So I did that. I deleted my Facebook. I've never really been into Twitter, but I stopped going to Twitter, and no more Foursquare, nothing else. I just use Google Plus, and it's been really liberating for me. It's been really great. It's like I've gotten back into writing and producing content and thinking and interacting with other people, and a lot of that is the environment, the beta closed environment. But I don't think there's any reason with the way they've set up circles that has to end just because the floodgates open. A lot of people seem really worried about that, and I think if you try the Google Plus diet, as Mike Elgin calls it, and you try giving up Facebook and try giving up Twitter and just using Google Plus, you may be surprised. It might make you more productive. It might make you really consider whether you have something to share with the world or with your friends or your family. I mean, it might be able to make you more conscious about what you're sharing, and that's a good thing, I think.
Okay, let me switch gears slightly here. Brett, Emily and I have talked about this several times, but Amazon pulled out of their relationships. One of the things about the internet is you can buy a lot of stuff. Now you might not buy an anvil or a refrigerator on the internet, but books, clothing, that kind of thing, not commodity clothing, not a pair of jeans you want to try on. But Amazon canceled all their contracts with all of the folks who earn money by they'll write a blog or a book review, and they'll say, if you enjoy this book, here's where you can buy it, and then they get a kickback from Amazon. And some of these guys make a lot of money. And so California just said that if they do that they have to collect sales tax. And Amazon canceled tens of thousands of these folks' deals. And so these are small businesses. And I had this is pitting the Alliance for Main Street Fairness, and we had their person on a show, and then we had the other group whose name escapes me, but they kind of duked it out on the show. It's really interesting on a previous episode. But what do you think? Because now they're going to go to the voters. The argument to make them collect the sales tax is it levels the playing field. In Front Royal, your town, if I go to Craig Laird's computer store and I buy a computer cable, then he has to charge me, 5% or whatever it is. If I go online, I don't have to pay that. Is that fair to Craig? The argument against it is that if they don't have a physical presence in the state, they're not using the state's roads, etc. And why do we need another tax? So what are your thoughts? You're typically against it, but you got to understand the Main Street. It's a tough call, right?
Well, yeah, it's an interesting question because you got to figure out how to make it a fair playing field, because you don't want to have any regulation favoring one kind of business over the other. But I'll tell you, that example right there, or the bookstore that's in Main Street in Front Royal, he takes an order on Amazon. Well, he's paying taxes on that order to the locality. So now California wants to take a bite out of that as well, because Amazon happens to be headquartered in their state. So he is paying taxes. He's paying taxes to the locality that he's actually has a physical presence in. So I think that's why you just need to leave the internet a sales tax-free zone, because as long as there's a bricks and mortar someplace and they have a business license someplace and they probably should look locally, that locality is actually the one that's already collecting the tax revenue one way or the other. So that merchant's going to be responsible for it. So I think it's just the way California, as we all expect, desperate for any kind of revenue that they can get. And as you would expect, as vast internet is out there that doesn't have any taxes against it, and the folks in Washington and Sacramento and Richmond and every place else, they're looking at it going, oh my gosh, how do we get a hand on that revenue there, even though it's already being taxed at the local level to begin with. So I say leave them alone.
Emily, this is just sort of the inevitable future, right? That sort of like when everyone was sharing songs, not us, of course, because it was illegal, but all these things you could do online, and then they clamped down. It's sort of been a free-for-all. Is this just sort of the logical, or not logical, but the inevitable future?
I did some digging on this today after you sent it to me, and there were a few things that I found out that were pretty interesting. First of all, the Alliance for Main Street Fairness is a PR campaign that was actually started by Walmart and Target and a few other large companies. So really at the heart of this issue, we're looking at the Amazon versus Walmart fight. And it's a battle that's been going on for a while, initially starting with, I think that if I remember correctly, it was a Harry Potter book, and they were just dropping prices to match each other. And it's a price war that kind of, and especially over books, resembles something you'd see with like two gas stations across the street from each other. And you know, this is really like the next step. I think this is Walmart's, you know, next fight, their next weapon that they're using in their battle. But you know, the other thing that I've read that was really interesting is that this idea that, you know, well, Walmart has created this great PR front for themselves. So it's putting themselves forward as an everyday person rather than a large company. Amazon has done nothing PR-wise to, you know, to demonstrate that they're not this big internet giant. And I think that, you know, really their biggest mistake is making this a case of like, you know, bricks and mortar versus the internet, when it's obviously not that cut and dry. So hopefully Amazon will be able to turn around, but, you know, California making this law is not the first place that's done it. I was reading that, you know, places like Rhode Island, Colorado tried to do it, and then when Amazon pulled out, they switched up their law a little bit. But, you know, it's a really interesting case, and it'll be really interesting to see, you know, if an internet-based company can prevail over a company as large as Walmart.
Christina, what's the sales tax in Texas?
It's really high.
Really?
I think it's like 8 or 9%. I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know. I'm embarrassed to say it's pretty high though.
Is that something that would be a motivator if you're buying a book? If one site, is that something is that something that would be a motivator for you to use a different site, that 5 or 8% or whatever, or is it not a big deal? What do you think?
Well, I mean, I'm as a consumer, I'm always going to look for the best price. I mean, if the tax, you know, if the tax burden is passed to me, then obviously, I mean, I can be honest, I'm going to choose whatever is cheaper for me. So I think most people would probably say the same thing. You know, if it's something where, you know, it's hard when it's a tax. If it was a higher price that I knew was going to benefit a company I liked more, that would be different. But, you know, no, if I can find something cheaper, I'm gonna do that.
Okay.
Well, Dan,
go ahead, Brett.
Is Amazon not paying tax? Amazon's in what? They're in California, right? Their headquarters are. So are they not paying any taxes of the state of California?
No, it's weird.
They are as a company.
They went into this. They have a nexus in California. The Kindle was developed there. I think I don't know if it's made there. It's probably made in Asia. But I don't know. They have a nexus, so they have to pay. I think that they didn't have to force. I forget. I think it was if someone bought it, or I don't even know. It's complicated because they were disputing
they're in
this.
Washington State too, aren't they?
Yeah, their Washington State's their headquarters, but they do have what's called a nexus, in other words, a presence for the purposes of this legislation in California, and that's not changing. So they were saying that what the folks who are advocates of this are saying is that this is all just blowing smoke, because they're going to have to pay the tax anyway because they have a nexus in California, and that the only reason that they disbanded their agreements with all of these affiliates, they're called, is just to basically have 20,000 people pissed off at the state and supporting Amazon. And whether it has that effect, I don't know. We'll see, because it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the election if it comes to the voters. What do you think?
I have a feeling that Amazon, my guess, Amazon's paying a pretty good, sizable tax burden to whichever state that they're supposed to be paying. I don't think they're getting off scot-free.
One of the things I've noticed, I don't know if Brett, you want to talk to this, or Emily, or anybody. I saw a story today. Google's going to offer a credit card but it's only for its AdWords advertisers. So if you are a part of a select group for the pilot program, if you're someone who spends money with Google, they're going to extend a credit card to you at 8.9%. They're working through a bank, and you can only use the credit card to buy AdWords. So it's good for Google. Basically, what they're simply doing is they're saying they're going to extend credit, and they're going to work through this company. But really, this is just does this make sense, Brett? What do you think? It's just a way to sell more stuff. I mean, it's like Sears and JCPenney, these are not retail stores, they're finance companies. Nobody would, a lady said, I used to have a mall store. It was in the food court. It was a restaurant. And the ladies from Sears would come and get iced tea for me because they liked it and we gave free refills. And they said that sometimes they were in the appliance section that sold washer, dryers, refrigerators. They said that sometimes they would go 2 weeks without changing the cash drawer because nobody ever paid cash. They always used the Sears charge card. What do you think? Does this make sense?
Yeah, I mean, if they're trying to be as efficient with their dollars as they possibly can, it makes sense to them, I would say go for it.
How does it work? I don't know if you know, or I don't know. If you're a company and you have, I've even thought about this with the newspapers. I've thought about offering, like, we have a lot of seasonal advertisers who want to advertise in November and December for Christmas stuff. And some other folks who want to advertise in the spring for summer activities. And I've always thought, well, what if you had a program where they could pay all year round and they don't have to pay all their money up front for that seasonal advertising? And I've thought, but I don't want to have to deal with hounding people and taking them to court and all that stuff. Can a company just do that? Do you know? I mean, can a company just, if you had a company and you were going to try to come up with some kind of credit plan, what would you do? Would you talk to a bank and see if you could offer some kind of special credit card? Can you do that on a smaller scale?
It's probably, but it'd probably be expensive. I mean, I think you would just you take the credit card and you charge it every month, and that's part of the nature of the business, is that's the risk that you're taking. Could you set up a small credit? Well, I don't know. Probably with a local bank maybe, but I wouldn't imagine you're going to go to HSBC or anybody like that and set up an account. So
I think this is a business opportunity for someone watching or listening. If you come up with some kind of program to there's a JCPenney's card, there's a Sears card, there's now going to be a Google AdWords card. If you could go to Joe's Plumber Shop and set up a program that was affordable, where you took the burden of collecting and hounding people away from him and let him actually earn a little bit of the interest rate and you split it. And if that's the business you were in, I think that'd be a terrific business opportunity for someone. And it would help these companies, who have seasonal people who want to spend all their money on advertising or whatever your product is, but it's seasonal and you want to pay for it all year. But anyway, that's the whole thing. Okay, final push, Christina. If someone is on the edge here thinking about going to Google Plus, how do we push them over the edge and make them dive right in? Give me a good sales pitch.
I think if you get an invitation, it kind of sells itself. If you use it and play with it and you honestly spend 10 minutes on it, if you hate it after 10 minutes, spend 10 minutes the next day and see if you can't just, I think something has to click for you, but it's still in beta, so maybe save the pitch for when it's ready, I think would probably be the best thing to do.
Well, they got Emily and Facebook lost her, so we'll see. I think that's a good thing. Any final thoughts, Emily?
Well, I think Google Plus is great, and it has incredible potential, and it's nice to see people like Christina really getting into it and really, leading discussions on the internet on Google Plus, about Google Plus. And I think that's one of the great things that Google does is it releases things in beta so people can test them, and the public can test them, and uses that feedback to really hone in on what they need to do. I mean, like, I remember when Gmail was in beta and it was great, and Gmail's only gotten better. So I have high hopes for Google Plus.
Now, Brett, you got your homework cut out for you now. You got to go home, and when you get back home, you got to kiss your kids and kiss your wife, and then you got to sign up for Google Plus, and you got to make sure you add all of us into a circle. And you can put me in a circle, irritating media types or something, and I'll never know that what you named the circle, so you're safe.
Sounds like a plan.
All right. Well, I want to thank. All right. Probably when he gets home, he's going to sleep. I want to thank Brett Herbeck, former vice mayor of Front Royal, Virginia, for being on the show tonight. He's a regular. Also, Emily Williams, senior political writer for the Lynchburg Times. You can always, if you want to find more on Brett, if you want to find out more on Brett, go to Facebook and vote Herbeck. It's HRBEK. HRBEK. Vote Herbeck on Facebook, and you'll find it. Emily Williams, you can find her at she's on Google Plus. If you go to my Plus page, you'll find links to the two other guests we had tonight. Emily at lynchburgtimes.com. You can catch her wonderful writing. And our new friend, Christina Trapolino, who is a woman of Google Plus, so named by a woman of Google Plus webpage. And we really appreciate that's an adorable picture of you. We're going to send a photographer out and get a headshot of her at some point. But that's her jealous little dog who's upset because she's spending so much time writing posts on Google Plus instead of cuddling. But we thank all three of you very much. This show is live weeknights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. You can always catch us on Ustream, Blog Talk Radio, and then on YouTube. All the links are on my Google Plus profile page while we fix our other site. That's gplus.to/McDermott. Or just Google it and you should be able to find it. I'll see you tomorrow night. We thank you very much for tuning in and listening or watching. And please share the show with folks. And don't be afraid to call anytime. I'm Dan McDermott. Thanks.